authority. It is only Congress that can fix the minimum wage, and it is therefore only Congress that can reduce our wage benefits. However, Your Honor, the law allows both worker and the employer some autonomy in agreeing on some reduction of wage-related benefits. Like for example, Your Honor, they can agree na yung vacation leave nila ay bawas-bawasan, yung sick leave nila bawas-bawasan, yung transportation allowance nila bawas-bawasan, at saka yung rice allowance, pwedeng it can be the consensus between the worker and the employer na bawasan nila. But never can they agree to lower the minimum wage, Your Honor.
Well, importante po yun, Secretary. And perhaps the next question that I'd like to raise is there a grievance mechanism in place in case, for example, an employee feels that his or her consent was not properly obtained, Mr. Secretary?
Meron pong ganun, Your Honor. Meron pong ganun.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Secretary. At yung another issue, yung deployment naman on restrictions of Filipino healthcare workers. Yung situation po ngayon of our healthcare workers whose deployment abroad is currently suspended. Can you give us an update and perhaps what kind of assistance we have provided to those healthcare workers na hanggang ngayon ay hindi or unable to find job locally?
Your Honor, there is a governing board resolution of the Philippine Overseas Employment Administration. And this resolution suspended the deployment of nurses and medical workers to foreign destination, Your Honor. However, Your Honor, this resolution was subjected to an exception. And the exception are those nurses or medical workers who completed their deployment papers such as verified contract of employment, their OEC or the Overseas Employment Certificate, passport and everything, Your Honor. And they can be allowed to leave the country as exception to the governing board resolution that they suspending the deployment of nurses and medical workers, Your Honor.
Sir Secretary, yung hindi po makaalis, natulungan po ba natin sila, na-coordinate natin sila, for example, sa DOH? And how many healthcare workers were recruited by our public hospitals or private hospitals? Meron po ba?
Meron po, Your Honor, because yung bananggit ko kanina na 10,000 cash assistance covered yung mga manggagawa na nakuha na lahat yung mga papeles nila, kompleto na nila, pero inabutan sila ng lock-in. So we extended to them, or they are entitled to the cash assistance of 10,000 peso, equivalent of the $200, Your Honor.
Last question po before I go to CHED, Secretary. No?
Yes, Your Honor.
Sa risk of spreading COVID-19 in workplaces, no? Una, enough po ba yung ating capacity para ma-check at masiguro na tumatalima sila dun sa ating OSH standards? Pangalawa po, gusto kong itanong, nakonsulta ho ba kayo doon sa pagbubukas ng industriya, for example, ng Pogo? Kasi kayo mismo, nung mga nakaraang hearing natin, ang laki at very strong yung inyong reservation about these Pogos. Because I remember in the last hearing, you made mention that 6,678 illegal workers ang inyong nahuli na nagtatrabaho sa mga legitimate PAGCOR accredited Pogos po, no? And just recently po, in a few weeks po, no, April 24 for instance, Parañaque, 53 na naman yung arrested, may 5 barel, mayroong 1.3 million cash. Nung May 6 sa Makati, 73 ang arrested na naman. Nung May 14, latest, sa Las Piñas naman po, 265 were arrested, 6.4 million cold cash yung nakuha. Tanong ko lang po, kasama po ba kayo dito sa kinonsulta bago i-open up at sabihin din, lalo nang yung sinabi nila na ito ay kinaklasify yung Pogo as BPO or business process outsourcing?
To be very candid, Your Honor, we really had reservation about the resumption of the operation of POGO. But when they assured us, Your Honor, that they will comply with all the requirements prescribed for the operation of POGO, we gave our go signal, Your Honor, because first, we made sure that POGO operators, meaning workers in the POGO industry, should not displace any Filipino worker. In other words, ang bibigyan lang namin ng alien employment
Employment
permit
permit.
ay yung mga dayuhan na ang kaya nilang trabaho ay hindi kaya ng Pilipino. At pangalawa, tinitiyak namin po na bago namin sila bigyan ng AEP, kailangan magbayad sila ng buwis, yung tamang buwis, Your Honor. And we will not allow sub-franchises, Your Honor. Kailangan yung bibigyan namin ay yung mga nabigyan lamang ng original franchise by PAGCOR, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Secretary.
Please find that.
Can I just have one question to Ched, Mr. Senate President, considering that I also chair higher and technical education? Just one question.
Go ahead with the question, please.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Secretary Belio. But just the same, you made mention kung magbabayad sila ng buwis. Last year, almost 50 billion pesos yung hindi nila nabayarang buwis. 6,678 yung nahuli nyo na illegal workers. So I have strong reservations sa pagbubukas po ng POGO. Sa CHED po, Secretary De Vera, magandang hapon po. Gusto ko lang pong pa-reactin kayo kasi a few days ago, dito po sa ating Committee of the Whole,
Hello.
umapila kami kay Secretary Abisado, together with Senator Pia Cayetano, Senator Angara, tungkol po doon sa DBM's National Budget Circular 580, no? Where SUCs will have to discontinue their program appropriations for capital outlay amounting to 17.93 billion. Gusto lang natin malaman, Secretary, kung paano makaka-apekto ito sa ating mga state colleges and universities. And at the same time, because I only have one question left, other than that, pwede ho bang bigyan na rin kami ng update tungkol po doon sa feedback and comments with regard to the grading system adopted by HEIs to complete the assessment of students amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. At last but not the least, yung pong questions na marami sa atin with regards to waiving entrance examinations in the light of risk associated with the mass gatherings, kasi yung some SUCs are proposing to waive the entrance examinations and use the applicants' general weight average as basis for deciding on their admission. I'd like to get your comments on this,
All right.
Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Senator Villanueva. Chairman De Vera, you may respond, and then we will go to the next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Simulan ko doon sa huling tanong, yung sa entrance exam. Paiba-iba ho per state university. Ang marami ay ibe-base na lang yung admission dun sa grades ng students at saka yung course na ina-applyan nila. Meron ding ilan na merong kombinasyon ng online test at saka physical test. Nasusunduin sila sa mga munisipyo by batch, dadalhin sila sa eskwelahan para kumuha ng test. So depende ho dun sa conditions on the ground at saka yung availability ng transport. But the majority are waiving the admission test for the state universities and colleges. Yung tanong ho tungkol sa numeric grade, ilan lang ho yung universities na gumawa ng pass grade. Kasama ho dyan ang Mindanao State University, ang pamantasan ng lungsod ng Maynila at hindi ko pa alam yung pangatlo, basta konti lang. Almost all adopted a numeric grade. Hindi ho kasi pwede yung mass promotion for three very basic reasons. Number one, it assumes na walang basis to compute grades. But 74% of private universities are using the old calendar. So they end their semester in March. And when the ECQ was applied, they had more than enough basis to give numeric grades. Yun namang mga tinamaan ng ECQ, predominantly state universities and colleges, ang ginawa nila, gumawa sila ng policy na the students are given 1 year to complete the requirements. Many universities adopted a no-fail policy. So they bent back and extended the period to do grades para hindi agrabyado yung mga estudyante. Doon ho sa 35% non-release ng DBM, the universities are adjusting by giving up certain capital outlay project. Kasi merong nakalagay na 35% hindi na i-release, yung mga projects nila, titignan nila yung equivalent ng 35%, yun na yung ifo-forgo nila for this year, and they will propose that in the NEP for next year. Yung 10% na reduction sa MOOE, ang tatamaan ho sa mga state universities at colleges nito mga cuts ay yung pangbayad nila sa mga part-time faculty. Kasi ang marami dito ay no work, no pay. So if they're not able to teach, then they don't get paid. Marami-rami ho yan. There are about 50,000 faculty members in all higher education institutions that are part-timers. So medyo malaki ho yung epekto niyan.
Chairman, huwag tayong mag-give up. Huwag tayong mag-give up. Nandyan si DBM Secretary Abisado at uma-appeal pa tayo. Yan, nakangiti si Secretary.
Alright, Chairman De Vera.
Hindi ko alam yung huling tanong, hindi ko alam yung last question ni Secretary Villanueva kung nasagot ko na lahat.
Yeah, nasagot naman po lahat. What I'm saying is huwag tayong mag-give up because si Sec Abisado will nag-appeal tayo at kasama natin yung mga senador. Maraming salamat, Mr. President. Maraming salamat, Chairman.
Senator Sherwin Gatchalian is recognized. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you, SP. First of all, I'd like to commend Secretary Cusi and Chairperson De Manadera for instituting a lot of proactive measures to make sure that the power sector is stable and constant delivery of electricity to our homes is assured. Alam niyo, mga kasama, for the last 2 months, I've been meeting the secretary and the chairperson and also some of the stakeholders. And kahit na maaga pa lang, nag-issue na ho sila ng mga advisories and circulars to make sure that tuloy-tuloy po yung daloy ng kuryente ho sa atin. Ang importante ho dito, kahit na ho nasa panahon tayo ng pandemya, tuloy-tuloy po yung daloy ng kuryente natin. And I'd like to commend both of them for working together and also for being very proactive. Pero itong pagkasaya ho natin medyo nasira ho is last week dahil nga maraming nagkaroon ng bill shock. Nung lumabas po yung may billing ho nila, biglang tumalon po yung bill ho nila. And let me just share, no? Meron akong, I don't know if everyone can see this. Oops. Hindi ho ito eh. Anyways, do I stop this? Sorry po nagkaka-technical ako. SP. Ito po yung billing ng Meralco na for the month of May biglang tumalon. And marami hong nagalit, marami hong na-confuse, maraming nahilo. Sinasabi nga ho nila, wala na nga ho sila trabaho tapos babayaran pa ng halos 3 times yung kanilang bill. So I've communicated this with ERC and the DOE, and I know the DOE has instituted some fact-finding. I'd like to ask Secretary Cusi kung ano yung mga findings nila dito at kung ano yung ginagawa. And for the information of our televiewers, no, lahat ng mga constituents ho natin, marami ho talaga, Secretary, hindi naintindihan kung bakit ho nagkaganito. So please explain in very layman, in very simple terms, kung paano po i-compute yung bill at ano po yung mga naging findings po ninyo.
Good afternoon, Your Honors, and with the permission of the Senate President. Kanina pong umaga, nakausap po si President Rey Espinosa ng Meralco. Kasi nga po, nung last week, nung Friday, sinulatan ko nga po ang Meralco dahil sa dami na natanggap naming complaints dito po sa bill shock na sinasabi nga po ninyo, Senator. And ang nakita po namin is that yung March and April na bill, which were estimated, no po, tapos meron po sila nagkaroon ng meter reading. Initially, napansin namin na yung meter reading po, yung bill ng May is an accumulation of the previous months. Initially po, no, yun ang gano'n nangyayari. So, kanina po, sinabi po sa akin ni Mr. Rey Espinosa, it's a question of the issue of information and presentation on the bill kaya nagka-problema. So, hinihintay ko lang po yung formal reply po ng Meralco dun sa sulat namin sa kanila. And in due time, maybe by tomorrow, we'll be able to be more definite kung ano po ang nangyari sa bill shock na dumating po sa atin.
Secretary, based on your initial inquiry, meron ba hong paglabis ang pag-computation? Because I know for a fact, binasa ko po yung advisory ng ERC and DOE, and they're very clear. No? But of course, these are very technical readings. Importante ho na intindihan ho ng consumers natin ano binabayaran nila. Talagang nakakagulat naman ho pag nakita nyo. But based on your initial inquiry, can the department assure the public that tama yung kanilang pag-compute dito po sa kanilang pagniningil?
That is something that we can assure the public that we at DOE, ERC, will go into to the bottom of this problem, no? How they arrive at those computation. So ngayon nga po, dinidetalya, tinitingnan natin kung ano po nga yung naging problema. And initially, ang makukuha po natin is para pong yung May na bill is an accumulation. Kasi based on meter reading na po. Yung pag meter reading nila po, tumigil po sila nung March reading. So pag-read po nila, March, April, May ang nabasa siguro po nila. So we're giving them the benefit of the doubt, and sabi nga po natin, iniimbestigahan po natin ito, and we will await for their reply tomorrow, Mr. Chairman.
Kasi based doon po sa advisory po ng ERC, it's very clear, no? 3 months average of the past. No? And kaya nga pag tinitignan ko ho dito, meron ho siyang, I don't think you can see it, meron ho siyang January, February, March, April. No? So ibig sabihin, kinompute niya. So ibig sabihin ni May is a double accounting. No? Parang dinoble niya ho, pinatong niya ulit yung dalawang buwan, which is
Tama po yun, para pong lumalabas na gano'n. Kaya nga po sinasabi natin na they're supposed to bill the consumers based on the average. Sabi nga po natin, how can the average of the 3 months be higher than the monthly bills? Yun
Correct.
po ang issue. No? So yun po ang pinos naming tanong sa Meralco, and we are awaiting. I'm sure ERC will go into the details of the billings, Mr.
Yeah, I would like to also ask Chairperson De Manadera her findings also. I know you nagkaroon rin ho kayo ng inquiry. Chair, can you share it to us and the public?
Thank you very much, Senator, Mr. President. Well, actually, what we did is to send a letter to Meralco to require them to submit to us documents that will show how they determine the consumption that they included in the bill. We are also asking them to submit to us what they issue to their suppliers and to NGCP. Our deadline actually is tomorrow, Mr. Senator. So, but even if we don't have yet, we already met with Meralco and require them to explain the bills, because if we look at it, we don't see the installment payments. All we see is a big amount, a huge amount. So yun
Yeah.
ho yung ating, at yun naman kung bakit nagre-react ang mga tao sa dahil nga nakita natin ano ba itong bill nito. No explanation, but there is a declaration about ECQ, about ERC, about DOE. So, noon hong in our meetings with them, ang naghiho naming instructions is i-separate nila, they have to separate those bills falling during the ECQ and MECQ. So, because these are the bills that are the subjects of installment payments, dapat ito hindi mahalo. So, the advisory that ERC will come out with is that, at saka in-address namin yung pangangailangan ng ating consumers who are consuming 200 kilowatt hours per month and below. So we think that these are the people who are now the lifeliners. So their bill will be subjected to 6 months installment. And those who are consuming 200 or above 200 as of February 20, yung po ang date of reckoning, then they will all be given a reprieve of 4 equal monthly installments for all the bills falling due in March, April, and May. So yun yung, because kailangan himayin hindi isang lump. We don't even know if the installment payment is there, or ano ba ito, current, ano ba ito, kailan nag-reading, or estimates.
Well, Chair, kung the chairperson of ERC or regulator hindi maintindihan ho ito, goes without saying, si Juan de la Cruz hindi mo maintindihan ho ito, no? Kasi kahit ako ho, ilang beses ko hong baliktad yung computation, di ko rin ho maintindihan. So the chair and the secretary cannot understand it. More so, Juan de la Cruz will not understand this.
That's true.
So, Chair, I would like to urge, of course, the regulator and the department to come up with a solution on this. Kasi marami ho talagang nagagalit and maraming napo-confuse. And the next question, Madam Chair, is anong advice natin sa ating mga consumers? Will they pay? Because it seems to me that the regulator and the department is still inquiring and finding out the truth.
Insofar, thank you, Mr. Senator. Insofar as ERC is concerned, we are coming out with the advisory, of course, in consultation